up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. We are live on Millions once again. Do want to go ahead and remind you guys that you have until Monday to get your reigning, defending t-shirts, hoodies, kids shirts, anything like that, because we will be taking them down on Monday. We are working on some new shirts to go up and replace those. Just wanted to throw that out there. Also, we have been nominated for Connect Savannah's Best of Savannah 2024 competition. So you can go on there for Best Podcast and Best Instagram. Links are on our social media. So if you'd like to help us out, help us spread the word locally, go on there and vote for us. But today we are talking about Georgia's dominant win in the Orange Bowl, the playoff semifinals, and the other New Year's Six games. But before we get to that, how was your weekend and what are you drinking?
Weekend was really fun. We got back from Detroit on New Year's Eve. Got home in time just to go to sleep and miss out on midnight. So nothing fun there, but I mean drank a lot for the Orange Bowl and the Lions game that happened afterward and everything. So uh, good time. I started work back today, so it's kind of a downer. But how about you?
No, it's been pretty good. I honestly don't even remember what I've done the last week. Really nothing. Been sitting at home. I just, because I had shoulder surgery and drive a stick shift vehicle. Um, so I can't go anywhere unless Kelsey's home. So I really just been sitting at home a lot.
How much longer do you got? So you're out of
I
commission.
get out of the sling on the 8th.
Okay. Yeah, very
Yep.
good.
Yep. Get out of the sling on the 8th. Um, been watching a lot of movies. Watched all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Um, started the MCU movies, and I started them yesterday, I think, and I'm already done with the Avengers. And I'm watching them in like storyline order. So that's like the seventh one I watch.
So like not the order they were released, but the order in which they're intended the story
Yes.
is whatever, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, man, I'm just bored. Bowl games saved me. Now I ain't got nothing.
Yeah. I mean, now you can go back and watch those like obscure ones, but our bowl manias, I think we both did pretty well with those,
I'm
all
tied
things
for
considered.
first.
There you go.
The
I think I'm
uh,
third. Yeah.
the title game will be the decider.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm I was in third until the playoff games happened, and then the people above me picked the two teams that lost.
There we go.
And I
They
was
want
right.
all they wanted an all SEC final instead. We got a bit all Big Ten finals. There we go.
But the difference is one of these future Big Ten teams is actually exciting to watch, and the other is Michigan.
You're not wrong. I saw like right before we got on, I got like an alert from Bleacher Report saying that the Bama Michigan Rose Bowl was top 10 most watched like cable shows like ever. Not just like sports, like just the history of like just cable. Like
all of
28
those
million, 27
people,
million, something like that.
all of those people suffered through that commentary. And people that don't know about football think that they're right. And we'll get
Yeah.
to that because I'm going to roast the shit out of those guys in a minute.
hmm I turned on the all the different alternate broadcasts. I can't listen to Kirk Herbstreit anymore. I can't do it.
Kelsey hates the hometown broadcast because it does like the weird border around the screen thing and shows the stats. And
I
so we
love that.
only do that for Georgia playoff games.
I was like, I love it. I love
I,
I love that.
I like it too. But,
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
on day 5 of watching nothing but football, you make a few concessions.
That's fair.
So let's go ahead and get into the Orange Bowl. The massacre in Miami. Dogs win by 60, 63 to 3, one upping the record they set against TCU in the national title game this year for most dominant bowl victory of all time. This time by 60. Last year it was 58. Um, some people were calling this game a scrimmage due to Florida State players opting out. But if we're being fair to Georgia, G-Day was a lot closer than this game was.
Always is.
Always is.
And
Um,
dog's still on top, right?
all of the time. 42-point first half, 35 coming in the second quarter. The rest was really done in the third, and maybe like one touchdown in the fourth. Because even when they weren't trying in the third quarter, they were still scoring. That
Silly.
that was the most comical thing to me is they were just like, all right, we're just going to run the ball, and Florida State couldn't stop it. And it's like, do you just want us to fall down? Like we're trying to embarrass you less,
Yeah.
and you can't even tackle the fourth string running back.
It got ugly very quick. I missed a good part of the first quarter and then came back and just saw the onslaught in the second because we were out, doing like a beer run and stuff. But uh good God. I am so glad. I right before the game kicked off, I was nervous about I got it at like 16 and a half, Georgia being favored. I'm like, it's a little bit high. I can cash out now and still make $10 like extra. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna let it ride out. I am so glad I did. At one point, I think before I stopped looking at it, like live betting, I think Georgia was like a 53 and a half point favorite,
Yeah,
like in what in the third quarter or whatever, which is stupid.
and they covered that.
Yeah.
They covered 53 and a half if you decided to be a sicko and live bet it in the third quarter. Um, Georgia covered the over in the first half by
Oh,
themselves. The over under was 44 and a half. Or
golly,
just
man.
just a couple minutes into the third quarter, I should say.
Okay.
Because they scored 42, but the over did hit in the half because Florida State did have that field goal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's just nuts. I mean, Gunnar Stockton played most of the second. Like Carson Beck took zero second half snaps.
Even Stetson in the national championship last year came in like like he was still in there like halfway through the third quarter.
Yeah, yeah. Kendall Milton, he did not take a snap in the second half. Did not have a carry.
There we go.
And even Jackson Muschamp, Georgia's until the transfer portal opened, he was their fourth string quarterback. Um, Played
Number
a good
16.
bit. Yes, he was.
That's wild too.
They were rotating play by play once they got Gunner out of there. They were rotating play by play, and were still moving the ball. I seriously think the best part about the entire game, like the score was cool, all the plays great, defensive stops phenomenal, offense even better. But the moment that Will Muschamp must have had to see his son in the Orange Bowl for his alma mater that he's now coaching at scramble and look like a white Lamar Jackson, made three dudes miss to get a first down on a long third down, and the entire team hyping him up on the sideline. Like that,
He did the whole whatever the hell this celebration is. I still don't understand it.
yeah, I don't either. I don't really get it.
I was hoping you, being a young guy, would understand, but fuck. There we
Nope,
go.
nope. I have no clue, but I'm here for it. I mean,
But
the
Jack,
entire team was hyping him up on that one.
some are saying Jackson Muschamp is a gritty coach's son with sneaky athleticism.
I would agree with those some.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, Florida State never substituted the guys that started the game to the end of the game.
I don't think he had
Jackson
a choice.
Muschamp Jackson Muschamp made three of them miss and got a first down.
Beautiful.
Like I, um, so for me, the difference in this game, we're not going to harp on it too much because, as I said at the top, it was the massacre in Miami, largest bowl win in college football history. Georgia beat their own record. I know I already said that. I just want to reiterate that because it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but the difference in this game was culture. So we talked about it last week. Florida State had the opportunity to prove their buy-in as a program and try to prove the committee wrong. But they all had individual mindset about playing in the bowl game. Nobody was like, you know what? I don't care if I'm going to the draft. My team needs me. Not a single one of them did it. And one thing that I want to point out is this isn't very different from Georgia in the Sugar Bowl against Texas and during the 2018 season into that game because Kirby was 3 years into the program. There were a lot of stars that sat out that game. Probably would have made a difference. Who knows if they'd end up winning that game because the defense in 2018 wasn't good. But a ton of guys selfishly sat out. A ton of guys sat out of that game. But since 2018, Kirby's cultivated a team first program, and Mike Norvell just hasn't done it yet. I'm not saying he can't do it because he is a good coach. He's brought the Seminoles back from complete desolation they were a few years ago. I mean, they lost to Jacksonville State
Yeah.
in his
The one in
first year.
Alabama, not in
Yeah,
Alabama, not Florida.
yeah. I, but they're not there yet.
Yeah.
Every single one of those guys that sat out that was not due to injury is responsible for what happened in Miami. Not the coaches, not Georgia running up the score because if you can't tackle an A gap run when that's 90% of what they ran in the second half, that's your fault. But every single one of those players should feel terrible about letting the university that gave them either their first chance, second chance, or even third chance in some of these cases. They let that university, that fan base, and that team down, and they should feel absolutely terrible about it.
In the group chats, I can't remember if you Wes, I can't or Caleb, I can't remember who sent it. Somebody sent it about KJ Bolden saying like after the Orange Bowl that he, obviously he was glad to flip to Georgia, but just seeing how it looked on the other side, it made him feel that much better about not being a part of that shit. So
Yeah.
that's
I
good.
mean, and so Georgia had eight, as of this morning, Georgia had eight players declare for the draft that played in that game. Only one of those guys that has currently declared for the draft didn't play because of injury, and that was Amarius Mims. You're talking guys with top half of the first round upside. That if something terrible happened to them, they could have lost millions of dollars, but they said, you know what? I started this with my team. I'm going to end it with my team. And that's something you're not seeing at Florida State. That's something you're not seeing in a lot of these programs.
Yep. Well, like last year, what was it? Will Anderson and Bryce Young both played in a pretty meaningless like Sugar Bowl against Kansas State
Yeah.
too. But like those top tier programs are not having the mass exodus of opt outs for again quote unquote like a meaningless bowl game. Even though I still think there's some importance to it. I still enjoy bowl season. I know you do. Uh, but yeah, I mean that separates the elite programs from the not elite. Either you're elite or not, right?
There's only three programs I can think of where top tier talent played in a bowl game that wasn't a playoff game, and it's Georgia, Alabama, and Ole Miss.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I was about to throw Missouri in there. I don't know if we're ready to do that yet.
We'll get to them in a minute because I
Yeah,
actually I have a lot to say about that game and Missouri program in general. But
yeah,
I mean like historically, not even this year,
yeah,
but like over the
yeah. Blue
last few
Bloods.
years. Yeah, I mean Ole Miss, I wouldn't even call them a blue blood, but Lane's gotten that team to buy in, and even transfers going back to no, Matt Corral started with the program, but Matt Corral's a great example. Probably
Yeah,
dropped 2 rounds in the draft because he got injured playing in the bowl game. But afterwards, Lane said he tried to talk him out of playing, and he said that there was no way he wasn't going to play in the game.
love it.
And you just don't see it other places, and that's a culture thing. All right, we are going to go ahead and get into players of the game. I'll take offense this week in a wild turn of events. So I got
Okay.
Kendall Milton, 9 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. He didn't have to play, but came out, and I think he arguably had the best game of his entire career in a Georgia uniform, averaging over 10 yards a carry. And we've said it since early in the season that a healthy Kendall Milton is one of the best running backs in the country. I think his performance over the last half of the season, including the bowl game, I think or I think should put him top five. If you're asking me today who I would rather have, Kendall Milton or Blake Corum going into a national title game, Kendall Milton every day.
Yeah, Blake Corum isn't the same. I will get into that later, but he's not the same back he was last year. So yeah,
I
I
personally
agree.
think, based on what they did against the level of competition, I would say him and Cody Schrader are probably the best two running backs in the country.
Yeah, I
Ollie
can't argue
Gordon,
that.
Ollie Gordon is phenomenal.
Mhm.
Big 12 is known for their defense.
Right.
And I think that's the difference on why I would rather have Kendall Milton and Cody Schrader, because both of those guys ripped through Tennessee, who finished the season with a top 10 rushing defense. Like, that's nothing to scoff at. Multiple touchdowns, close to 100 yards against a top 10 rushing defense, I meant to say. Um, yeah, I think you could easily make an argument that those were the best two running backs in the country with their level of opposition taken into account.
For sure. This is, and I know at the beginning of the season and a good deal of it, I was kind of a Kendall Milton pessimist. I don't want to say a hater because I'm still a fan of him, but last what, 5, 6 games that he played. I mean, this is the 5-star kid that we both thought that we were getting, 4 years ago, and he blossomed into that. He's a lead back. He's a lead back in the NFL. Somebody's gonna be lucky to get him, and whatever round he goes in, second, third, whatever, he's gonna be a dog, literally, and well, for any team he's gonna be on. But yeah, I'm gonna miss
Man,
him.
I said it during the game to the group chat, but I said every tackle he breaks tonight is another spot he's moved up in the draft.
Hmm.
Because there were runs where he had 6 broken tackles on the same run. Like,
Yeah.
I want to see the stat of how many tackles he broke in that game.
He was just running through dudes. Like it was beautiful to see. That's the hard running that we wanted to see. He was breaking tackles that were up high, down low. They were too slow. All right, so defensive player of the game, I'm gonna give it to Michael Williams. 4 tackles, had a sack, 1.5 tackles for loss in total, and a pass deflected or defended. Uh, dude was all over the place for the amount of, at least when he was out there on the field. He stood up a decent amount. I think that's probably going to be kind of maybe what we see him more in, situations next year. But I mean, he played very, very well. I was happy to see number 13 get after it, all
Yeah,
over the place
and
yesterday or
one
Saturday.
thing they said during bowl practice is they were transitioning him to more of an outside linebacker role moving into next season.
I like that. I like it.
And I think he played a lot of snaps in that role in the Orange Bowl the other day, and I think that definitely had an impact on his stat line.
Because there would be games where I mean, either have like a tackle or maybe like a 1.5 tackles for something like during the season. Like he still made an impact, but it wasn't again stuffing the stat sheet like he did on Saturday. So I think that's going to be a good move for him. And obviously, we have no reason to doubt the coaching staff with things like that. It's not like LSU moving what's his face uh, out of position. I can't remember his name. I don't even know why I brought it up.
Perkins, Harold
Perkins, yeah,
Perkins.
yeah, moving him around. Yep, they're doing what's best for the team, so that's all good.
And for the newcomer of the game, it's hard to call him a freshman at this point because he has played 70% of the season, and that is C.J. Allen. Led the team with 6 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1 pass defended. Um, Jesse Palmer said that he is the next Roquan Smith, Nakobe Dean, which is probably the nicest thing he's ever said about a Georgia player. He did find a way to throw 10 stories about him at Florida into the Georgia Florida State broadcast, which is just the most Spurrier player thing he could have done.
Right.
Uh, but CJ Allen, I mean, you guys know I love him if you listen to the show for a while, especially early in the season. Had a little bit of an interaction with him on social media, him shouting out my nephew, that kind of thing. Love CJ Allen. Can't wait to see what he does next year as Georgia obviously is linebacker university.
For sure. And then finally, hungriest dog. It's got to be Lad, right?
It's got to be.
Uh, he again another guy that didn't have to play. Obviously, glad that we did. Got to see him one more time before he declared. Uh, he only had 2 touches, but uh, one
First
big
down and
grab, and then he had
touchdown.
yeah, he had a yeah. I mean, just like I mean, electric. I mean that the one kind of it wasn't failed because he still obviously scored, but it looked like they passed it back and he was throw a lob to somebody, but ended up just uh, making chicken salad out of chicken shit there, and being lad, did it for
Yeah,
the lad. I mean, I him and he's gonna be he's one of my favorite receivers that we've had in this era for sure. I don't think he can, not counting Brock because obviously he's a tight end, but
yeah. If
dude's
you're not,
dude's gonna
if
be missed.
yeah, I mean, between personality, play style, just the hard work that he puts in. Like, I mean, I know I said it ad nauseum last season. The second half of last season, he was so injured he couldn't practice, and still was going out working and playing his ass off in the games. There was not a game in the second half of last season when he was so injured he couldn't practice that he did not make plays.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of person that you want on your team. And any NFL team is going to be lucky to have him. Now that Belichick's not coming back to New England, we don't have to hate him for going to the Patriots, which is nice.
Mhm.
Um,
I said he's gonna look good in a Philly jersey. I mean, I'm just preparing for it already.
I think there's a good chance Kendall Milton goes up there.
That wouldn't be bad either.
Yeah, we're going to talk about draft stuff when that time comes.
Yeah.
But no,
But
there are some
yeah.
very interesting conversations to be had about that, and we're
Mhm.
probably going to do it like we did last year, and where we want to see them go versus where they're probably going to go.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you ready to move on to the Cotton Bowl?
One thing,
Okay.
one last thing before we go on. We talked about Lad going. Brock Bowers just announced that he's entering the draft just, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes before we started recording.
Sad, sad day. We knew it
Yeah.
was coming.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
we tried to speak it into existence for him to come back, but man, if there's somebody we hadn't talked about that we should have, Oscar Delp, Pierce Sperlin,
Oh shit,
and
yeah.
Lawson Lucky had themselves. That was their. The Orange Bowl was their. You thought you were glad Brock's leaving.
Yeah. No. There is
The
not a shortage of like 6'6" fucking freight trains.
the wildest thing is Brock was only like 6'2". He's like
Yeah.
6'2". Everybody else makes him look short.
The freshman that was at the bowl practice, what the hell was his name? You said it just now. The tight end. He's like
Uh,
6'7". Spurt
oh, well,
Spurlin,
Sperlin and Lucky are freshmen this year.
okay. There's somebody that the early enrollees, the picture that somebody had posted with with all the guys that were early enrollees that were at the bowl practice, the tight end that they have like being like 6'7", like giving off Darnell Washington vibes. Maybe not as like
Jaden
thick, but
Riddell is
Riddell, that's who it was.
yeah,
Yeah,
so he's 6'4", 233.
he looked way bigger than 6'4".
Yeah, he might have hit a growth spurt between when he reported that to 247 because there were some guys up there that are 6'4", and he was
Yeah,
taller than them.
yeah, he was a good like 3 or 4 inches easily over those guys. So just get the hype train moving. All right, but I'm good now.
All right, Cotton Bowl. So we had Missouri beat and Ohio State University 14-3. I don't think anyone in the country predicted a 17-point combined total for this game. I personally probably would have predicted Ohio State to not score a ton, but for Missouri to only get 14, I thought was actually said a lot about the Ohio State defense. Ohio State has now lost 4 consecutive games to teams with a yellow block M as a logo. They are 1-13, excluding a vacated win against SEC teams in their last 15 games against them.
That's not good.
I, at this point, if Ryan Day's seat's not hot, have they given up on football?
Well, they're sure as hell not a basketball school because they haven't been good since they lost that championship against Florida. Well,
No.
basketball and football. Um, yeah, that's tough. I mean, I don't want to say I hate to see it
I don't
because I
hate to
mean
see it.
I'm reveling in this. This is beautiful. This is everything I've wanted.
Yeah, I just One thing we learned on I think games Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing we definitely learned. Kyle McCord, not the problem.
Nope.
Uh, I think we all just learned that Ryan Day needs a really good quarterback and damn near generational talent wide receiver to have a decent to good offense against any team that's above average. Um, Play calling not great. It doesn't help that Devin Brown went down in that game, but he
Yeah.
also wasn't doing much before he went down. For being entirely honest, like I just
And a whole like QB wearing a number in the 30s is still odd. I know Michigan had a quarterback in the 2010s wear 98, but that was a honoring a Heisman deal, and I kind of somewhat understood that. But being a 33 at quarterback is a
they kept
choice.
saying it was for former Ohio State quarterback Sammy Ball, but
Sure, yeah. Sammy Ball
that
probably could have played a better game and not gotten hurt if he was out there, however fucking old he is. I've never heard that name in my life.
apparently Sammy Ball played for Ohio State when they won a Cotton Bowl in like the 30s or 40s.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Um,
That's that. Wow. Okay.
yeah, I don't. So
Fuck Ohio State. I'm sorry.
I agree 100%. I There's no love lost. Ohio or Ryan Day crying is one of the best scenes in college football. Like
It's my
screw the
favorite tradition.
sunset at the Rose Bowl. Like whatever.
Yeah.
You know that okay. Screw like the mountains outside of Utah Stadium. Like yeah, that's cool. Seeing Ryan Day cry is something everyone loves.
And it's every game. Like Urban Meyer would act like he was about to die when he would lose a game. Like just Ryan, just crying, crying Ryan.
I mean, is it a manlier way to lose your job to fake a heart attack than cry every time you lose and get
I don't
fired
know.
because you can't beat anyone with a pulse?
Maybe his like final straw should be like Lou Holtz just like laying the smack down on him like one more time. Like I want to. Did Lou Holtz say anything after this game? Because I know he's been saying stuff after every other loss that they've had. Like granted, it
Somebody,
was just Michigan, but yeah.
yeah, that we'll get somebody on that because I want to know too. So between these two teams, and this is not something we're doing for every game on here, but for these two teams, they are exponentially trending in opposite directions. Mizzou is set up better for success in the future than Ohio State is. There are defined cracks in the foundation in Columbus. They have no solid quarterback options going into the offseason. 17 guys in the portal, including four starters, currently have zero incoming transfers. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have wide receivers. They have zero players coming into the portal this offseason. Um, and a lot of their defense are seniors and don't have any eligibility left. So even if they got two bags to come back, they can't.
Yeah.
So the defensive guys that kept this game close until the fourth quarter, those seniors, those veterans, they're gone. You're losing those guys to the draft. So
Yeah.
hot take with the new teams coming into the Big Ten, I think Missouri's going to make the playoff. At, and if Ohio State makes the playoff next year, Missouri will be significantly higher seeded.
Ohio State's not getting a home playoff game
No.
at a minimum if they make it. Like because at this point, so I mean I know there's a second round of like transfer portal stuff, and they can see somebody that like loses in the spring or whatever. But at this point, they're relying on 4 or 5 star quarterback recruit Aaron Noland, which cool name, but you want to put all your eggs in a basket of a like a true freshman. I don't know. More often than not, it's not the best thing for a program that is going to have a coach on the hot seat. So we'll see. I just hope Brian Day stays there forever. So whatever he needs to do.
I mean, the thing about it is Ohio State has two five-star quarterbacks currently on the team.
Mhm.
that played extremely poorly against Missouri defense that I believe was top 30 in total defense. Um, I'm about to look it up now so I don't feel stupid and way
I mean,
underrate them.
that sounds right. So yeah.
But I just, man, it's wild that Ohio State has fallen so far so fast. Missouri's 33rd in total defense.
Okay, so yeah, right around that.
Yeah, so I don't think it's that hot of a take to say that Ohio State probably doesn't make the playoff next year.
No, because you got the group of five champion that gets a spot, and then conference
11
champions.
teams.
Yeah. So are they a top 11 team? Schedule's tough too. So I don't know. I mean, not as tough as some other Big Ten teams. Ohio State again getting looked after by the Big Ten in their scheduling, but
Is it going to matter?
no, probably not.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it will. Speaking of shitting on the Big Ten, you want to do it again for the Peach Bowl?
Let's fucking go.
So Ole Miss answered my question that I've been asking all season, and that is, it's Big Ten offenses that are awful, not their defenses that are good. Ole Miss blew out Penn State, and the score is nowhere close to how much the Rebels controlled this game. They had what, two or three fluky plays, like tip passes that got caught and run for like 30, 40 yards, something crazy like that. If you take out tip drill where somebody runs for 30 or 40 yards, Penn State has 17 points. Like they're,
Not yeah, not great.
they Penn State, the only impressive thing they did was impress us with how stupid James Franklin is for pulling Bo Pribula out of the game after he was the only quarterback that could move the ball. They'd put him in for like 3 plays and it would be like, oh man, you got 40 yards in 3 plays.
We
All
don't
right,
do
we
that
need Drew
here.
Allen back.
I've seen enough. No more. Get the hell out of here.
We
We
are
don't
a
do that.
ball control team, Bo. What are you doing trying to score fast?
Oh man, it was funny because we so like during this game we were having my daughter's birthday party up there like with my family, my wife's family, and all that. And you know, I would say 90% of those that were paying attention to it were like super like pro Penn State, just because obviously in the middle of the Big Ten country it makes sense. But I try to tell them, I'm like, put some money on Ole Miss money line. The line kept going up more. I think it closed at like 5.5 on
It
FanDuel.
did. It did.
I'm like, I don't get it. I don't.
Nope.
And they proved me right. Lane, 11 wins, first 11 wins season they've had, or he's had at least.
No, Ole Miss history.
Yeah. Yeah, the national championship team had like 10, right? So,
Yeah, shorter seasons.
yeah, yeah. But man, there's somewhere that I on the podcast, either like Twitter or Facebook group or page or whatever, that asked like, who's the most likely SEC team to lose a New Year's Six game? And I said Bama, and I got so much shit for it. And then I came back yesterday.
They were the only SEC
They
team to
were.
lose the New Year's Six. Just
It's thrown out. Just saying facts, man.
yeah. No, Ole Miss is making the playoff next year.
Oh yeah.
12 teams. The fact that Ole Miss was ranked 11th and would have been the last team in this year is stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous
Hmm.
because Ole Miss beats 5 teams ranked ahead of them.
For sure, Liberty.
Yep. Florida State, Penn
Or yeah,
State,
yeah.
Ohio
Florida State,
State.
Penn State. Yeah.
Mizzou Ole Miss is the game we missed this year that we deserved.
That could have been game of the year in the league. Yeah.
That's the game that we deserved that we didn't get. But next year is always possible.
Hmm. For sure.
So yeah, another Big Ten coach that should be on the hot seat, and if he's not, the fans just have given up on football or accepted their ceiling as being,
The best mid team in the Big Ten.
yeah, like they're the best of the worst. And with adding these teams that they are next season, they'll go from third in the Big Ten to fifth.
They're a victim of geography more than anything when they went to the East and West, and then I mean, they're definitely happy that they're getting rid of divisions there because they were in the Big Ten West. They would have won that shit almost every year that James Franklin was there because Wisconsin hasn't been Wisconsin in a little bit. So,
Unless they're playing LSU.
right. Dairy Raid.
The Dairy Raid,
Doing
we
it.
talked about it this summer, and they finally came around and did something.
So once again, we may not always be right at the time, but eventually we are.
Correct. Yeah.
Just like Ole Miss going to Atlanta this year. I was right.
Just
Just in
context
different
doesn't
time.
matter.
Yeah.
If we're being real, context
Just put it
doesn't matter.
on put it on a quote card. No context needed.
Oh. Something that I don't think you need context for is the Fiesta Bowl because Oregon pulled a 2023 Georgia allowed Liberty to score a first drive touchdown and then put up 45 straight points. I This was ugly. Bo Nix
Yeah.
got his curtain call and tried to not leave. He tried
I
to
didn't see
wave
any
the
of this
other.
game, so yeah.
So Bo Nix tried to wave the other guy off and like turned back to the huddle, and his teammates were like, "Nah, dude, get out of here. We love you, but you have done everything you could do for this university. Go sit on the sideline and probably drink beer with your family." Very
Right.
next play, Bucky Irving got his curtain call. So it was very reminiscent of the national title game of last year. Of they were just like every play standing ovation for one guy that was coming off the field. I will say that for all of Bo Nix's childish behavior early in his career, he has turned into a hell of a player and great teammate. I think he will do any NFL locker room a lot of good, and I truly believe that he will do well in the NFL. Um, I do think it might take an injury or something weird to get him onto the field as a starter, but hear me out. He goes to the Cardinals. He's like the second quarterback they take in the draft. Whoever they take first gets hurt. Bo Nix comes in, game four, game five, something like that, leads them to the playoffs. Is that out of the
So you're
question?
so you're talking like a RG3 Kirk Cousins situation.
Yeah. Like, is
Yeah.
is that crazy to think about?
They need some skill players, but that could be a situation that he could thrive in for sure. Like not having any expectations or very little going in because you have someone before him. Could be a good spot.
Now, I don't want to jinx anything, but a Bo Nix to Lad combination in Arizona,
I don't want to see Ladd in Arizona. I want to see him play.
I do too, but thinking about the grand storyline of it.
You know,
Lad roasted Auburn with Bo Nix there, and they play
yeah,
together, make the playoffs. Let's
that would be a good look. Where somewhere where Ladd and Bo are not going to play
what?
Atlanta. So where somewhere they're not going to play is Atlanta.
No, 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 no. You
I don't know.
you have to go to like an FCS school and play three positions to get played by the
Yeah,
Falcons.
yeah.
Because everybody else, the Falcons play you, as in, you know, oh man, you're going to be the focal point of our offense. Ha ha. LOL, JK, you're going to sit on the sideline.
They're going to go after. They'll probably end up going after Justin Fields and giving them like 3 first-round picks, and then the Bears take Caleb Williams. I'm calling it now. But anyway,
Are the Bears ownership willing to give up a stake in the team? It's the big question.
like we talked about before, I mean, Aaron Rodgers doesn't own it anymore. I guess it's
Well, Jordan Love still
Jordan
owns it.
Love. Jordan Love had a good season.
Shockingly, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest. Um, so while we're on the topic of Caleb Williams, just I've been
no,
looking for an opportunity to throw this out there. Did
yeah.
you see the reel that somebody posted of him? So
I
he
saw the still of him, but I didn't see the actual reel. No.
so a friend, family member, somebody was sitting on the couch with him watching the Rose Bowl, in his apartment, like penthouse apartment in LA because he got paid way too
Mhm.
much money to go never win any real game there. And the guy has a camera up, turns to him, goes, "Hey, Caleb, bet you wish that was you." Ha ha.
Oh no.
And Caleb just gave him this death stare, and it's
That
you
guy's
reap
probably
what you
dead.
sow.
Yeah. That, oh God, okay, I'll have to look for it.
Yeah, hilarious. Speaking of the Rose Bowl, the game that Caleb Williams wishes he was playing in, Michigan dominated both sides of the line of scrimmage and played the style of football that Alabama was threatening to play all season. We heard all off season Alabama was going to go back to ground and pound, joyless murder ball. Um, Michigan looked like a Greg McElroy era Bama team.
That's fair. Yeah.
And that's not meant to be a dig at really anybody, but like just thinking back to recent memory, national champion teams that great defense, good offensive line, ran the ball and passed when they had to. I mean, that was Michigan against Alabama. Um, so the problem is this Alabama team could not handle a defensive front that actually blitzed Milrow instead of spying him, with the spy also trying to cover their best wide receiver at the same time.
Well, and the thing is, like, especially in the first half, Michigan didn't blitz all that much, but like I think they blitzed like 5 or 6 times and got 5 sacks in that first half. Like they were super, super effective and when they picked their spots. How many sacks did they end up with? Like eight?
I think so, at least seven.
Jesus. Yeah.
Um,
Like I
I
mean,
I
crazy.
will say the creativity behind those sacks was something that I really hope the Georgia staff looks at
Yes.
because instead of so one thing that I picked up on is they did a lot of disguising the outside linebacker looking like he's going in coverage on the side of the line, but the defensive end would take a side step off the snap towards the outside linebacker, and they would both just bull rush the same tackle, and he had to make a choice. Somebody was getting to the quarterback, and they did that with multiple players multiple times. They did it with the safety once, the corner once, outside linebacker once. Like if you're going to blitz off the edge and not do like a delayed blitz up the middle or some stunts, that is the most effective CGAP blitz that I have seen against a powerhouse school in years. I loved it.
It was beautiful. I know during the game I was having just, flashbacks to choke jobs of the past, the Mark Richt anxiety syndrome type stuff, just the last few games, well, last game against Alabama and other games that Georgia's played against them, just fearing the worst. I didn't believe it until the game was over that they would do it, but I jumped way ahead. Uh, Alabama center, what the fuck?
Throwback to a conversation we had a while ago. I think it was with Cody
Mhm.
of talking about Bama for the SEC championship game about how Gwinnett County hates Georgia.
Mhm. Dude's from Buford.
Dudes from Buford.
He's a
Five
spy.
star out of Buford
Mhm.
is arguably the reason Bama lost that game.
Well, and I mean, he was part of the reason why they almost lost the Iron Bowl too.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
man, I mean, it was in his head. And Michigan did a good job of like pushing up against him too. So not only could he snap it without like a ton, worrying about that, but he's got guys coming at him too he was all out of sorts. Jalen Milrow didn't know where the ball was going. Like,
he didn't know
no,
when it was coming either.
yeah. I mean, again, I don't want to feel bad for anybody on Alabama, especially like, a quarterback there, but he had no fucking chance. Like, I
No,
mean, like we talk about the yips that like that Georgia gave DJU, a few years ago. But I mean, I think Milrow, if they don't get that center situation figured out, he's gonna have like like just jumping all over the place, not
yeah,
knowing that. Wall's going to come. Like in the future, I don't know how they got to get somebody else there if they want to have any shot at it. Because if they had a competent center, neither team played uh like
Great.
mistake free. Georgia, I keep saying Georgia. Goddamn. Michigan had two muff punts, which one of them almost almost resulted in a walk off
Losing the
safety.
game.
Yeah. And like we talked about, JJ not playing perfect. I mean, he had three touchdown passes, but like he's not.
He played well when he needed to,
Yeah, he
which
was
is which is
clutch. Yeah,
which is kind of where that Greg McElroy comp comes in
yeah.
for this particular game because I think J.J. McCarthy's ceiling is significantly higher than Greg McElroy's,
Mhm.
but he made mistakes, but he also short passes on checkdowns, hit guys that were open. He didn't really have a killer mistake, and that's what they needed in the game.
He tried to do it in the very first pass play he did.
Oh, look, I sent it to the group. I was like, if this stands, this game over already. Bama's already in
Yeah,
field goal range. Done.
yeah. I That's when I started having the flashbacks. I was in a bad spot. I think I told everybody to bet whatever the number live bet whatever number Bama is.
I did. Um,
Sorry.
eh, that like I said when in the preview, I was like, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I truly hope that I am wrong, and I was. And it's not very often I'm happy to be wrong, but I damn sure am today.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
I mean, what a game though. I mean, I obviously I'm happy with it. I don't know. What do you
Rose
think the fault
Bowl
is?
overtime games.
Greatness. Like what? So like in the terms of like the Rose Bowls of like the 20th 21st century, you still probably have Texas USC one, Georgia.
No, I have the Georgia game one.
I mean, I think for us for sure. I mean, I enjoyed
Well,
that.
so the reason I say Georgia game one is Georgia was down 17 points right before the half. Ohio State or Oklahoma tries to get cute with that squib kick. Jake Fromm moves the team down the field in like 12 seconds to get into field goal range. And then the
Right.
entire second half is just both teams throwing haymakers, double overtime for the first time in Rose Bowl history, wins the game off of a blocked kick, just like they blocked multiple kicks that season. And the most perfect part about it to me, this is something weird that I love for some stupid reason. I can't explain it. When kickoffs or blocked kicks hit in the middle of the O in Georgia. I don't know why. It's one of my favorite things about being a Georgia fan. But when Lorenzo Carter gets his hand on that ball, it lands dead center bullseye in the O to finish the game. That's
Beautiful.
why it's my one.
Yeah. I mean, that should be something we do in the off season. It's like ranking like some of these bowl games. That might be something.
Okay.
I just said Texas U or yeah, Texas USC just because it was the national championship. It's the picture they always show with Vince Young, the confetti coming down and all that. But I mean, but this last Rose Bowl is probably third, right? Gotta be.
I that USC Penn State game from like 2016.
Yeah.
That
Utah and Ohio State. Man, fuck the Rose Bowl is always like almost always good. Shit.
that USC Penn State game, or yeah, the USC Penn State game. I mean, Tracy McSorley, Saquon Barkley, um, Chris Godwin on the Penn State side. You had Sam Darnold and a bunch of other guys on the USC side. I think the final score was like 52-56, full like just four quarters. That's one of my favorites to go back and watch in the off season.
Like Utah and Ohio State from a few years ago. I think Cam Rising, that was probably his junior year, like 6 years ago.
That's where he got
That was a
hurt.
good game too. Yeah.
That, he got
I
hurt
mean,
in that game.
yeah. But yeah, the Rose Bowl's had a bunch of good games. Damn. All right, sorry. Back to it.
Um, I'm trying to figure out where we were. Hold up.
I think
Yeah,
they
we
played
kind of already
Scary.
talked about some of this stuff without going through the bullet points. All right, so here's my gripe about Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler in this game. I'm not sure that they know that Robbie Outs, number 45, C.J. Dupree, number 81, and Amari Niblack, number 84, are not offensive linemen. Like I don't. They kept saying tackle or fullback when all these guys are rostered as tight ends. They were playing two or three of them pretty much from the second quarter to the end of the game when they were actually able to move the ball. They're tight ends. Alabama had, in the first quarter, they only had 37 yards of offense. Had the ball twice. 37 yards of offense. One of those was where they got the ball deep in Michigan's territory and scored. 27 rushing yards. And here's the crazy thing. Their touchdown was a 40-yard run.
Yeah, yeah.
And with all the negative plays, because their offensive line is shit, they had 27 rushing yards at the end of the first quarter. They needed 2 extra blockers. Their offensive line was 7 guys all night, just like it was against Georgia. So every time you hear Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit or Gary and can't even remember the other guy's name from CBS talk about, oh, Alabama's offensive line's
Brad.
gotten better. No, the hell they haven't. They needed
Yeah.
7 guys to be able to move the ball. I really want to know if these commentators that get paid millions of dollars to say shit they don't actually understand know that tight end is not an offensive line position. They are blockers at times,
Hmm.
but they are not a center, guard, or tackle.
I mean, you can look at the numbers and realize that shit. Like I said, 45, 81, 84
Yeah,
tackle.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just that's driven me nuts every time I've watched an ESPN or CBS Bama game this year because they're like, though their offensive line's improved so much since that Texas game. It's like, yeah, they're lining up 7 dudes. Like I don't. Yeah, everybody's offensive line is going to be good when you have 2 extra blockers and the running back blocking for your quarterback. Like you have 8 of 11 people on the field are there to make sure that Jalen Miller can run the ball. They're going to look good.
Mhm.
But their offensive line, when they needed to perform, aka 4th and 3 for the entire season, was dog shit. It has
Yep.
been since the season started, and it will be until they can figure something out. Because J.C. Latham, he was projected to be a top 10 pick. He'll be lucky to be day 2.
Yeah.
That McLaughlin guy, I don't know what year he is, but I would not be shocked if Saban either moves him to guard or says, "Hey, dude, you're not going to be on the team next year."
I think he was class of 2020, so he might. I think he's draft eligible.
He better leave
Yeah.
because after the performances
UFL.
he had, he's going to like Sam Houston if he transfers.
Yeah.
His option is like a 7th round pick or Sam Houston, and that's about it.
Mm.
Because this is the worst offensive line Alabama has had since 2007. And I don't think it's much of an argument.
And that's the part that's still like I went back and got mad all over again. Is like Georgia, give them a month off. They would have kicked the shit out of both of these teams. All right, I think it would have been a little bit closer against Michigan, but they still would have won against both of these teams. How the hell did we lose against Alabama?
You know,
Bro, I got mad all over again like at the end of that game.
defensive game plan, man. It was a
Yeah.
bad defensive game plan.
Yeah. Ugh. Like I said, and Michigan tried to give that game away too with the 2 muff punts, the mishandled extra point, so they could have won in regulation. Could have.
Yeah,
Uh, they
that
they
muff
missed a
punt
49
late
yard
in the
field goal.
game
Yeah.
was.
Oh my God. But in like I mean they missed the field goal too. That was a 49-yard field goal. That's not you can't be mad at that. But
Yeah,
uh yeah, man, I don't know. Michigan tried their best to do what they did against TCU last year, but Alabama again
Oh, I'm
much
sorry.
closer to a 9 and
Oh, I'm
3
sorry.
team than they
Is this
are a
the
12
Nothing
and 1 or
Finer
12 and 2 team
podcast?
or whatever the fuck they are now.
I was trying to call the
I
police
agree.
Yeah.
because I think
I'm
I just
trying
watched a
to
murder happen
get
on live
something
television.
going real quick.
So, my bad. Let me hang it now.
All right, here we go. I thought we didn't have any calls for calling the dogs because it normally calls my phone, and I have not missed any calls. We do have voicemail, so that'll be fun.
Cool. Oh, and
Um,
okay, one other thing, like before we go on to the Sugar Bowl,
all right.
like you were talking about Fowler and and Herb Street. I think those two. I think that well, Fowler's usually okay, like ish, but like Kirk, I honestly hate him more than Gary. I really do. I know it's
Same,
probably a hot take. Huh?
same. No, I agree.
He's gotten so much more insufferable the last like 2 years. I can't do it.
And I mean, they did a whole 15-minute segment on his dog, like
Mhm.
during halftime. Like, okay,
Juice Kiffin wannabe. Get
yeah,
out of here.
yeah. I just and after saying all season how he still thinks Alabama's the best team in the country and this, that, and the other, he hedged on game day and said that it was going to be a Michigan Washington final.
Of course he did. Of
Yeah, of course he
course he
did.
did. Yeah.
He listens
Yeah.
to Nothing Finer podcast because he doesn't want his ego to get too big, and heard me um, say that it was going to be Michigan Washington.
hmm
And if
We
he
did. We
doesn't, he
all.
should, because somebody needs to tell him that 45, 81, and 84 are not offensive linemen. Apparently, nobody at ESPN has the balls to do it.
Yeah. He at this point him and like Stephen A. will just have you like thrown in the ocean if you say anything to them criticizing them.
Hey, you know what I say the A in Stephen A stands for? Asinine.
I was gonna say that was gonna be my guess. Okay.
Asinine, because he don't say nothing that makes sense.
He's asinine, acid 10, acid 11, all that.
All of them. All the asses. Stephen A.
Yep.
Sugar Bowl. And so this is the game we signed up for. Texas fought back time and time again down to the very last play. It's another one of those times where they put a second back on the clock and the team that got the second ended up not winning the game. I would love to have somebody do a stat deep dive on that, because I don't know a time it's ever worked out for a team that got a second put back on the clock.
Goes against the script.
Yeah, ESPN just doesn't allow it to happen.
Yeah.
Um, but I said it last week. I've been saying it for a while now. If there was a team that was going to beat Texas, it's going to be Washington. The Huskies proved time and time again this season you cannot guard three number one wide receivers on the same team. I mean, Jalen
Yeah.
McMillan healthy, and you had Roma Dunze, and you had Polk. Like, you're not guarding all three of those guys all day. And Washington has over 500 yards of offense. Michael Penix had 490 or 474 passing yards, which is wild. Um, Texas just shy of 500 yards at 498. I think this game really proved why Washington deserved the Joe Moore Award that they won, with how their offensive line held Texas to 0 sacks. It was the Joe Moore Award winner versus the guy that was voted the best interior lineman in the country, and Sweat made 0 plays against that
Mhm.
offensive line. I just, I am. There's part of me that is still very surprised that Texas was able to come back, because it seemed like the Washington defense was doing a lot and Texas had a lot of turnovers. But I think that just speaks to what's getting built out in Austin. I mean, the culture behind it. They got a good coaching staff. Steve Sarkisian is still one of the best offensive play callers in the game. But I'll say it now. I don't think anybody's beaten Washington this year.
Ooh. I'll have to think on it more. I mean, I'm gonna go with my.
I'm gonna
I will.
dive
We'll get
into
into it.
it. So I
Yeah.
reserve the right to take that take back. But
Well, okay. So one thing I will say, well, two things, is that Dylan Johnson, so like their lead back, got hurt in the last offensive play for
hate
Washington. Yeah,
hate that.
not good for them. And then
Former Mississippi State running back Dylan Johnson,
yeah, ooh, yeah, but man, and
first Mississippi State player to ever play in the playoff.
oh yeah, that's right. Yep. Um, and then with AD, what I didn't necessarily see a stat line, but I know he was involved in that final play that got swatted away, which would have been another freaking all-time moment. Like he would have been like on the Mount Rushmore of like,
If you take
The
out the 2019 LSU run in the playoffs, AD Mitchell leads all players in playoff touchdowns.
But like even like moments too, like he's had like of the 14 playoff era, like he deserves that like a face on that Mount Rushmore. He could have had a split Georgia. Well, it should have been more Georgia, but Georgia Texas helmet or whatever because he almost made a fucking all-time play.
And to
And
be entirely fair, if that ball was thrown better, that's a touchdown.
yeah,
It was thrown too high and outside when he was open. If he would have thrown it low and outside, he wouldn't have had to jump for it. The other guy
mhm.
was too far back. AD Mitchell makes that play 10 times out of 10 if that ball was thrown more accurately.
So okay, so I thought he had a bigger game than this. He only had four catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. Again, he could have had a second touchdown there, but I thought I saw more out there, but I guess I'm
So
wrong.
he was targeted a lot, and he made
Yeah.
more catches than four, but Texas penalties kept getting those back.
Uh, and that's funny because like when we were talking with Chest about it, like Washington was like the most penalized team in the country,
Yeah,
or damn near last, or
they were
damn near.
second to last in penalties this season, and they had 5 for 39, which is 3 penalties and like 30 yards below their season average.
Yeah, dang.
Yeah, I if Washington plays like this next week, there's not a team in the country that can beat them.
Sorry. Yeah, man. Damn. It's gonna
But
be. I mean, it's gonna
playing
be a
like that
good
against
game.
Michigan's defense is not easy. So
Yeah, because that's one of the things that I was going to say before is like Michigan didn't respect Alabama's passing game, which I mean honestly don't really need to, especially with the rush that they were getting on Milrow. But it's gonna be a whole different story against Penix. Dude throws freaking lasers. There's a lot of people I would say that didn't watch a single minute of Washington all season, and then they saw that game and wondered why Penix was not the Heisman.
well, you're seeing articles all over the place
Yeah,
about, oh, why didn't Michael Penix win the Heisman? He played like this all year. Quality of competition, first off.
yeah, hmm
Second, Jaden Daniels, I'm pretty sure he has the single season yards accountable for record in college football this year. Like over 4,000 passing, over 1,000 rushing. Like Jaden Daniels was the best player in college football this season. I don't. The only
yeah,
reason they didn't make the playoff because they would have stomped the hell out of Alabama if they had a defense. If I'm
yeah.
being entirely honest, they'd beat the shit out of Georgia if they had a good defense.
Oh, that would be unstoppable. Kalen DeBoer, like we talk about. That's kind of another small tangent, but like we talked about Kalen DeBoer like being like a hell of a coach, and obviously he is. You know what his overall record is?
What is it?
So at Washington, he's 16-2.
Okay,
Obviously, all this losses came last year. Overall, he's 95-11.
good lord,
I
and
didn't
that's
realize it was
that's
like that.
D3 NAIA, FCS, and FBS,
Yeah, dude.
and that's with coaching at. He was the never the head coach at Indiana. He was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
I was about to say, if he coached at Indiana with that record, damn.
yeah. He would have got them to the playoff.
Yeah, and you know, Michael Penix. If you listen to the show for the entire season, Washington's been my second team all year. They were my bandwagon team. Now they're playing for a national title game, so I can't choose them next year. Kind of sad about that. But if you paid attention, you saw this coming.
Yeah,
Like that just I'm gonna leave it at that because if I keep going on about how right I am, Kelsey might be right. My head won't fit out of the door because
what? Yeah. Uh, so I've been DMing Chess that the our guest that we
yeah,
talked about the Washington game, and he was actually at the game itself. He was saying, I mean, this might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but he was saying it was like 90-10 Texas to Washington fans, which makes sense because Texas isn't that far from New Orleans, but like
Washington
that makes
fans
that
that were
all
there
the
were loud.
yeah they were. So I guess
But it
that's why I was
also
thinking
makes sense
maybe
on
in
why they
Belgium.
showed like the same 5 people for Washington the entire game.
Yeah. I mean they made a difference, but like that makes it all the more impressive that they were able to win and have like a double digit lead for, a decent part of the second half before Texas came back.
Yeah.
Uh, that makes it all the more impressive. So I mean this national championship is gonna be good. I mean the most excited I've been with, not having a Georgia team or not having Georgia in it, but obviously I'm a little bit biased, but
I mean,
we'll talk about that later.
just gonna say it again. The committee got it right. I,
It was good
with
games, man.
with everything that was on the table at that time, the committee made the correct choice with what evidence was available to them once again at that time. Now, if they had a crystal ball and said Georgia's going to beat Florida State 63-3, Georgia probably makes that top 4.
But then who do you leave out though? Yeah, I don't know.
Probably Texas.
Yeah, I mean Oklahoma was not
Because
the Oklahoma that
Oklahoma
we thought they
drops.
were. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but no, I mean, they made the right call. We had 2 down to the final playoff semifinals. And we're
Mhm.
going to have a phenomenal title game.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to hear no complaints from me about that because, all of the Georgia beats all 4 of those teams. While I agree with what information was available at the time, the committee made the right call. And to sit here and complain about it makes you no better than Ryan Day complaining about that no targeting call. So if you're listening to this, quit saying dumb shit because if Georgia had a better defensive game plan, even playing like shit for 70% of that game, they still were within 1 possession of beating Alabama.
Yep.
Georgia had a better offensive and defensive game plan going into that game. They win. They're probably on a three-peat right now, but they
Yep.
did.
Made two or three critical mistakes, and that's the difference. I mean, again, going back to the Ohio State game with in the Peach Bowl, same difference. I mean, one thing goes a different way, they only win one championship in a row. So, or and they don't repeat. So, such a
Yeah,
fine line.
yeah, it
But
is.
somebody from Florida State, one of the I won't say who it is, but one of the pods that we try to come on or get on for the Orange Bowl preview this morning said that they stand by what they said and that the Florida State was robbed about not getting in the playoff. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me after everything we saw.
Hard on some copium there.
Yeah, I,
Hard. They need to go to Copium Anonymous
yeah. Hmm.
because they got a problem. They need help.
What would be the thing that get them off of that if they had a copium like overdose? Like, what would be the Narcan version of that?
Force them to. It would be a series. It'd be a series of games you make them watch. So first, you make them watch where they lost to Jacksonville State at home.
Yeah. Okay.
And they would be like, all right, we have come a long way. To be 13-0 and then lose to a back-to-back national title is not that bad. And then you kind of build them up a little. Make them watch that Clemson game this season where they won in overtime. Um, and then you just show highlights of Duke beating the shit out of Clemson.
Yeah.
And then you show them a 7-5 Kentucky team taking Clemson down to the wire. And then they're like, okay, yeah, no, our record was kind of inflated because the ACC is bad.
Well, I mean, he could have showed in the last like 3 weeks or 3 games they played too. It's like, no, like you're not better than any of the 4 they got in or
No,
Georgia.
no, and I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, I was kind of impressed with what Brock Glenn was able, or how he was able to improve between
Yeah. Yeah.
the ACC title game and the Orange Bowl. But you're still going against a top 2 or 3 secondary in college football. You're still going against a top 10 scoring defense in college football, and as a team of second and third string guys, because the rest of your team quit on you, it is what it is.
Yep.
The committee didn't make the wrong choice.
No.
So we are going to hit up calling the dogs real quick and then get out of here. If you want to leave a voicemail for the playoff calling the dogs, 678-465-8020. And here is this week's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this the Nothing Finer podcast? I was trying to call the police because I think I just watched a murder happen on live television. So my bad. Let me hang it now. But in all seriousness, I thought there was a good chance that this game wasn't going to be close. Like I was almost certain it wasn't going to be close. I thought, just because of the difference in talent on the field, that might be the case, and I thought that the players would take it seriously, but I did not see that coming. And by that I mean breaking our own record that we set last year against TCU for the most dominant bowl win in the history of college football. We've done it 2 years in a row now. How are we supposed to top that when the playoff comes in next year? I mean, I won't complain if we do, but wow, unbelievable. Everybody came to play. Everybody showed up, and that's the difference between the two cultures. And again, everybody's going to try to be downplaying it all off season when we talk about it. I even seen Georgia fans saying, "Oh well, it doesn't really matter. This doesn't really give us any bragging rights because of all the opt-outs." No, let me tell you why the opt-outs are not a valid excuse for this game. Florida State fans and Georgia fans who just insist on whining about everything and not giving Bobo flowers when he deserves them. For one, it's a culture thing. Like 50 players opting out of a game that they think doesn't matter. Florida State is acting like they had every reason not to think that this game matters because it wasn't the playoffs. The team standing on the other side of them won the national championship the last 2 years and still came in and treated this game like it was a big deal. Now, not a big enough deal to give Kirby a Gatorade bath, which I still think it's not where we want it to be. But they still found a reason to care about this game and showed out. And that's the difference between the two cultures there. And two, regardless of the culture issue, regardless of it, our third string got in there the whole second half and nothing changed. So I don't want to hear, we didn't have our starters to play. Yeah, when our starters weren't playing, it didn't matter. So just an absolute drubbing. Definitely something Georgia fans should hold their head up high about. Definitely something Georgia fans should be bragging about. And definitely something that should show you what this team has a chance to do in 2024. So, Dabo, you're next. Good luck, pal.
And thanks again to Caleb Tillman for that voicemail. Once again, if you want to be on the national championship calling the dog, 678-465-8020. As we close it out here, guys, we haven't decided on our off-season schedule quite yet, what days we're recording, how many days we're going to record. But we will let you know soon. The shirts we're working on, we will put those out on all of our social medias when we get to them. If you want to follow the social media, it's at nothing.finer.pod on Instagram, at finerpod on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search us there. And, as always, remember, there is nothing finer in the land
Been a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.